Welcome to Kim Talks Resilience, where we share stories of insight and inspiration in life, love, and business with resilient women from around the world. Speaking with authors, entrepreneurs, founders, and coaches to learn their strategies for a more resilient life so we can all build the life we love. I'm your host, Kim Hayden. All righty, welcome back. Welcome back. Super excited that you are here sharing your time with us today because we know your time's most valuable resource. And speaking of resources, excited to have our next guest because you may have heard in past of me talking about, my daughter and I love to thrift. We believe in upcycling. We love that eco-friendly luxury, eco-friendly clothing. Movie I watched not too long ago. COVID has totally put like a Groundhog Day on my time awareness. But maybe about 6 years ago, there was this great movie that came out, and it was all about how the dyes from our denim are causing issues in India in the rivers and literally killing off the ecosystem. So our guest today is really got me kind of intrigued because wait till you hear this bio. You got to stick around for the show. Okay, Stephanie Sarka is the founder and CEO of One Atelier. She redefines luxury through technology, celebrating individuality while reducing waste. One Atelier crafts custom sustainable handbags and accessories. Who doesn't love a custom handbag? Handcrafted in NYC, each piece reflects my unique style, healing the planet one bag at a time. One Atelier's latest farm to arm is net zero carbon biodegradable luxury. Now, Stephanie, a Stanford grad, on her journey from Goldman Sachs to Harvard Business School, led her to innovate paid search. Now, later that was sold to, you all know this name, Yahoo. A single mom, she inspires, raising a future toy inventor with a heart for others. So I think that Stephanie, you could be my new spirit guide because I love that you are doing a creative that is future thinking, implementing technology, because technology is, don't be afraid, folks. Tech is our friend, and you're paying it forward. I love this. I love
Well,
this.
thank you.
And the fact that you have Goldman Sachs and then go over to a creative space, that is so cool. Okay. I am super stoked. Can you tell I'm stoked?
Yeah.
Bring me in, Stephanie, with a little bit of who is Stephanie and where are you dialing in from?
So Stephanie is a person who has oddly spent her life trying to have an impact. I didn't realize that going in, but I definitely realize that now. Looking backwards, both in terms of my relationships with people, I've always thought that, raising and putting good people on this earth was perhaps the most important impact I could have. And yet that turned out to be one of the most elusive, to have my daughter now 10 years old, and also just in the businesses that I've been involved in, as well as have started. So as you said, now I have a business called One Atelier, and the intention is really to deliver joy to women, while at the same time, dramatically reducing the impact that we have, since fashion is one of the largest polluters on this planet.
I did not realize how bad it was. And actually, jeans. Denim is one of the
Jeans, yep.
biggest culprits out there. I had no clue. And I saw this movie, like literally, what was the name of it? I want to say Blue Water or something like that. I'll look it up. I'll put it in the notes. And I've talked about this movie before. It's such a great documentary. And it literally shows the impact of North American consumerism
Mm-hmm.
on Indian, villages, right? And how the water flows down and it's toxic. It's bad, right?
Yep.
But I love the fact that, recycle, reuse, renew,
Hmm.
and this is what. So living your life to leave a space for your daughter and her generation. So walk us through your company and what exactly you do. What does this look like to make a custom, upcycled, you know, basically couture upcycle? What does that look like?
Absolutely. So we had a couple visions when we started the brand 10 years ago, and that has continued to evolve. The first was just to deliver joy in luxury, because we heard time and time again, and I had been in fashion for many years, that women consistently were buying bags for several $1,000s, and those bags had a nice cozy space in the top shelf of their closet, because for one reason or another, and this is clearly not the most important problem in the world, but nonetheless these bags were not servicing their needs. And it could be something as minor as the color of the hardware was not really the color that they were for their jewelry, for example. And so they just tended to walk away from that bag, or it wasn't functional adequately, or it was the wrong shape, the wrong size shoulder strap. And ultimately, after making that investment, they were simply putting those in their closet, and the idea arose in the midst of focus groups. Actually, what if we could design the perfect piece, the bag that not only brought me joy when I walked by the department store and had that moment where I had to have it, but then for the next 5 years so I could continue to use it. And that was really the initial impetus, but I have to say it became very quickly much more. So yes, technology becomes an important lever, because beneath our very clever customization tool on oneatelier.com, we have some proprietary technology we built. But at the end of the day, what really is behind what we do from a sustainability perspective is that we don't produce to a forecast. And having been at Coach and other companies where we've produced thousands and thousands of units, ordered thousands and thousands of square footage of leather to produce bags both based solely on a forecast, we do exactly the opposite.
Yep.
We only produce to order. And that makes a huge difference from a financial perspective, as well as ultimately our footprint on the planet.
And you would think that during the pandemic, when we ran into all these supply chain issues, had we pre-pandemic actually adopted some of this thought process. First of all, like the amount of clothing that goes into our dumps? What God, how many tons is that annually? Like it's massive. It's
Well, one way to
massive.
think about it is that the fashion industry is actually the second largest polluter after the oil and gas industry. And on another interesting statistic, fashion industry produces 10% of the world's global carbons, which is more than both aviation and maritime industry combined. So what people don't fully understand is the impact that fashion has had on the decimation of our planet. And so, we're one small voice, but we think we are the only brand that's exclusively producing on demand. We don't sit on inventory. We don't do wholesale in the traditional way either, where you ship a lot of inventory to the retailer. They sell what they can, they mark down what they need to sell, and then they send 50% of it back
Yep.
dog-eared, and you're supposed to do something with it. We don't do that. We will work in retail environments on a concession basis only, which essentially is leasing the space. So we run the shop, we staff the shop, we merchandise the shop with very few pieces of inventory. But then those are the inspiration for our clients to design the bag, even in the retail environment. Everything is designed by you and handcrafted uniquely for you.
I'm just pulling up your site because I want to see some of these bags, and I apologize, folks. I'm usually on top of things a little bit, but I'm just dying because I'm now in my head am creating a bag, right? Um, because
So I was going to
yeah,
tell you where to go. Drop onto custom, and then I'll tell you about what we're doing as our second act. But drop onto custom, and you'll see a variety of silhouettes there. And if you click on any of those sketches, it pops you into a customizer that enables you
very
to select
cool.
leathers, colors, even functional features.
Okay, I am okay. You keep talking. I'm going to go off screen. I'm actually going to do a screenshot, drop it into a
Have fun.
PDF, and put it into here. And I want you to walk me through this process
Absolutely.
because I do think I love a good bag, but I always kind of lean. Right now, I've got one type of thing I'm looking for, and I have purchased two pieces, and neither one are working right. Right? It's not
And
what
we
I
hear
want.
this all the time.
And I'm actually looking at your messenger bag right now, and I'm going, oh, and I yeah. So So walk us through a little bit the technology
Mhm.
implementation and how this has shifted your business to be able to offer how many different styles you've got here. You've got
I mean,
one
just 30 at the moment. And
30.
I think
No,
one of the
that's a lot. That's a lot.
well, one of the
So
beauties of what we do while you're designing, and I'll go down this bunny hole, is that we don't have this compelling requirement to produce a collection of 15 or 30 bags every quarter. You know, the fashion industry is driven by 4 or sometimes 6 cycles, and each of those cycles in the past, accessories brands are bringing in new collections, and they essentially are obsoleting the collection that existed prior, which is why the department stores are constantly churning in inventory in and out. We, on the other hand, bring in a new style or a leather or a color every month or so. So there's this constant newness, but and we build core, and then there will be some pieces that will be unique or limited edition, or more fashion or seasonal. But the intention is not to have 15 new silhouettes every 3 to 4 months, but rather to build an assortment that has legs. Because quite frankly, when we have built the digital assets supporting what you see when you design the bag online, that was our investment in inventory. At that point, there's no cost to keeping that product on our site, even if it's our lowest selling piece on the assortment, because the investment has already been made in the digital assets. Whereas most brands, when they maintain a style in their assortment, they actually have to back it with inventory, so it becomes a very costly proposition. So of course we'll tease out something that really hasn't worked over time, but our backpack, for example, is our least selling bag. But when someone wants a backpack, they're going to come and design our backpack, so there's no cost at all for us to keep that on the site at this point. And you mentioned the messenger, so I'll talk about that a little bit. So the messenger is one of a 3 bag capsule that we just launched at the end of last year, and that was really phase 2 for One Atelier, already having made a mark as being the only luxury brand that is exclusively produced on demand. We decided to push further up our supply chain, and what that means is trying to understand better what the source of our raw materials is, and doing a better job in the development of those raw materials. So we have beautiful raw materials already on our site. All of the leathers and skins, most of them come from Europe, Italy specifically. The Italians are probably, many steps ahead of us in terms of the sustainable practices they have implemented around raw material procurement, and making sure chemicals aren't leaching into the soil through their tanning process, etc. But we said, how do we do even better than that? And how do we build a line that is A, completely sourced in America, B, is not generating the carbon footprint that leather does? And what does that actually mean? Leather actually is a byproduct of the meat industry, but you need agriculture to raise the cattle. And most animals are uh, not most animals are raised on farms that are mostly in the traditional vein of agriculture, so industrial agriculture. And it turns out that industrial agriculture is um, a system that is actually depleting the soil and driving carbon into the air and not letting soil do its job, which is pull carbon out of the air. So we built this whole separate assortment called the Farm to Arm collection, where we're sourcing our leather from a farm up in Minnesota who is exclusively practicing regenerative agriculture for the cattle that he raises in a beautiful way, and then is veg tanned. So I diverted a little bit, but just because you chose the messenger bag. But let me come back here to what you see, because it's so
this is
important and
so
we're very excited
cool.
about it.
So
So you can click on a piece here, any of these pieces. Our top seller is actually the universal flap, which is third from the right on the top row.
third from 1, 2, 3, right here. Universal
Uh,
flap.
yes,
That okay. I see you. I have my cursor going. I guess nobody in the video can see
you can
my
see that.
cursor. So third from the right. Okay, I can see that. So that's the top seller. So I come on here and I select a bag.
Correct.
Um, then I can I have it like custom done in a color I want? Like how does this work? How do you
Exactly. So if you
okay.
click on are you in universal flap right now?
I can't. No. No. I actually copied this. I put it in a PDF and
I
then I
see.
loaded it up. So walk us through the process. So we would
So if
come in
you
here.
put the universal flap, you drop that into the customizer, and you'll see on the right side that there will be a host of various leathers, and within those leathers, a variety of colors. And so you have the opportunity to click on any of the color leather combinations and it'll plop right into the design. So the design will actually be created literally in front of your eyes as you're clicking around. It has a variety of benefits. One is that you get to see it in real time. So then you do your body, your strap, any hardware, and the bag has taken shape right there in front of you. And if you've done something that you want to change, you can just change it in real time. And at the bottom, you'll see that the price is also changing in real time. So, we all live with a variety of conditions and constraints on our life. It could be that you always need a crossbody bag because you don't want you don't want the extra weight on your shoulders, or you want to have a certain budget, or you're looking for something that's really durable and everyday in the way of the leather that's chosen. So all of those are options within the choices that you are presented. And then as you're building the bag, you have the opportunity to see exactly what you're building and at what price.
This is just so cool. This is so cool. I love it because it kind of allows you to be creative. But yes, the messenger. I have been looking for a one for my phone and my wallet, but just those two things. I'm at a point where I don't need to carry around an entire makeup kit
Right.
because I don't care. Right.
I'm with
Half the
you.
time I look like I'm going to the grocery store. So, and by the way, half the time I leave my house, I am going to the grocery store. so, the reality is I mean, I'm not saying that 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, that's why they carry big bags. Big bags also belong to, new moms and things like that.
Yep.
I'm at an age, the less I'm carrying with me, the less I'm going to forget.
No, that's absolutely true. And we have a variety of pieces for the women like you. My favorite bag on that regard, and I don't know if you want to throw the
Yeah,
sketches back
I'll
up,
pull it up.
but it's the convertible. So the Messenger is actually built for a full size laptop. So it's a substantial
Oh,
bag, although it's very narrow and it's got a vertical profile. So unlike most laptop cases, which are wide and make you look wider, this is long and lean and it kind of runs the length of your body. But the piece, just two items further to the right, the convertible mini, is my
okay.
favorite bag, and it would be perfect for you. It has enough room for the phone, some change, your credit cards, probably a lipstick pencil, and that's it. I've carried it to China with my daughter because I can stick the passports in as well. And then it's a crossbody, but you can also bring a chain, so you can change it to like a little short shoulder with a chain that gives you the opportunity to take it out in the evening,
Wow.
or a little wrist strap. So one of the big things for us is convertibility. So that bag can be worn in multiple ways and it serves all
Amazing.
your purposes. So I like you, despite the fact that I run a bag company, my bags get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, yeah. My phone is getting bigger and bigger. My bag is getting smaller and
Right.
smaller. Oh
Well,
man,
that's a
this is
statement on life post COVID
I
also.
know.
The
I know.
crossbody and the whole bit.
So, in starting this, okay, go because you've got um a very healthy academic background and corporate background. And now you've gone out on your own and your challenge it's embracing that what do they call that? Um there is an actual term, and I heard it the other day, and I've said it, and now I can't think of it. This is again a sign of being over 50, folks.
Yeah,
Busy
we're there
woman,
together.
busy. Um, but it's about the it's eco luxury. It talks
Mm-hmm.
about and I'll think of the term later, but basically it's that when you're shopping for your fashion look in the environmentally friendly options first,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can't find it, then you go and nothing against people who are selling new. This is just it's just if we can claw back 30% of what we're throwing into these landfills
Right.
that don't biodegrade, that would probably mean that we're then reducing 30% of the destruction that a lot of these chemicals and
Mm-hmm.
such put on Earth. Okay, so let's talk real quick how you came to the decision to leave like safety and security
Mm-hmm.
of a contractor job and move it into what would be considered a passion-driven entrepreneurialism.
Right. And passion and purpose driven. I mean, I've kind of been an entrepreneur most of my life since I left Goldman Sachs. So Goldman Sachs was the plum job to get after, Stanford, and mergers and acquisitions was the department. And, I'll be forever grateful that I had that opportunity, because it brought me to New York and I saw the highest level of corporate America, and traveled all over the world and got to be on, the supersonic plane, and got all these great things, but I hated my work. And I don't think it was just where I belonged. I quickly realized that I belonged on the other side of the table. And I think what was great about Goldman is I was in mergers. And so I was kicking the tires at a lot of businesses as we did due diligence. So I saw a lot, and I would just always say to myself, those guys on the other side are having a lot more fun. So I took that and went to Paris with International Flavors and Fragrances for a year, through an introduction from Goldman. So, really appreciated that, just to try the other side before I went to graduate school. And I, cut my salary by 3/4 and lived in an illegal sublet in a beautiful old townhome right off the Saint-Germain-des-Prés, and had the time of my life. I love my work. I love my life. And it really validated for me that I just belonged as an operator and a leader, a strategist. Took that with me to Harvard Business School. It's very seductive to get back into consulting and investment banking from Harvard Business School, because they're very actively recruiting, or they were. This was many decades ago. Now, I just heard that 17% of the people coming out of HBS started their own company, and another 20% went to a startup. So it's a whole different world now. But in my day, and I resisted going to that other side, let's call it. And I ultimately got an opportunity to work with Coach, which was perfect for me. It was at the time when Coach was just moving from 100 million to $1 billion. Sarah Lee had bought it. They had this new fellow named Lou Frankfurt, who was CEO, top brilliant strategist and marketing guy, taught me everything I know. Quickly stripped off my Harvard stripes. I always tell this story. Brought me in within a few days and told me that nobody cared that I'd gone to Harvard Business School. So, so aside from getting the lowest salary out of my graduating class, now I couldn't even talk about it. But I did. He did, to his credit, push me around the entire organization, and I really got my hands dirty in the projection and in selling and the entire finance. And ultimately ran a previous life of Mark Cross for Coach, and just had the ride of my life, and I still credit as being probably the biggest professional learning opportunity. But after that, I was sort of getting itchy. What's on the other side? The internet thing was happening, and so this was 97 now, so I'm dating myself, but actively looked to find an opportunity to plop into an internet startup, and ran into the folks at Ideal Lab, Bill Gross, and they were just beginning to put the team together to create a different kind of search engine. And so I was the co-founder of GoTo.com. There again, lots of risk, lots of ambiguity. Flew to LA, which is something I'd never thought I'd live in LA. And there I was, plopped into LA. Felt a little bit like a Martian for a while, but I adapted. Didn't matter that much because I was working 24/7, but there were rare moments when I got to the beach. And we built this incredible thing. I still have a piece of paper when we literally blocked out the paid search business model that we invented. And that was a second ride in my life. We moved quickly, took the business public within a year, ran it for several years, and then, as we said, we sold it to Yahoo, and created an industry, which is still the largest piece of the online advertising sector. We ultimately were not the primary beneficiaries. Google was, and that's a whole story in itself. But listen, we had a great ride, and I don't think I'll ever match it. So I have stopped trying, and learned so much about what it takes to start from zero and go to 100.
Wow.
So that was my first opportunity, but that was wildly successful. From day one, we were very successful. And flash forward, so I came back to New York, built my dream home, got involved in a whole variety of things, because now I was committed. I was 40 now. Okay. So get married, have a baby, all those things I'd kind of forgotten to do along the way. But I was actively investing, advising boards, I call it sort of sprinkling fairy dust, only to realize that I was basically working all the time for a lot of other people, flying. It was a great life. I had companies in London, companies in China. I mean, I was having a great time, but in the meantime, trying to shoot myself with fertility meds to try to make that baby thing come to fruition. And at some point I said, gosh, I'm working so hard, I might as well start my own company. And I'd been flirting with a variety of things at that point. And so that was sort of how we thought about One Atelier. But I'll pause and
No, that's and you know what? It's funny because there's a lot of this conversation going on, and I have women on both sides of the aisle. I'll have women that I talk to that are in their, mid 40s and they're just now going on the journey. I have women who I've talked to that have very high performing careers that are in their mid 60s, and they share very intimately, kind of where they were at. So, I get that. And then giving birth to a company is as much work, right? And it's like, so yeah, it's pretty crazy. In
and
this,
we launched when I gave birth to my baby. So go figure. Life has a
wow,
funny way of working out.
you don't do anything halfway. You don't do anything halfway. So it's knowing that, can you share with us a time where you had to lean into grit, you had to lean into resilience because we would not be having this
Yeah,
conversation
absolutely.
as we are, and then give us a little insight as to how you pushed through.
And actually, I'm going to add another book when we come to it, to the favorite books, because it is all about grit and perseverance. And it's something I'm talking about a lot with my daughter these days. This whole notion of resilience and the growth mindset, which I had to learn, to be honest. I wasn't raised that way. I was raised right or wrong, good or bad, black or white. And now I'm like, oh, there's a lot of gray area, and that's where the magic happens. I mean, the entire One Atelier story has been a story of resilience. I have to be honest. This was not my easiest startup, because I've been in other companies after Go2 where I invested or I got a little bit involved, and boom, they take off. And we have had a lot of learning and a lot of mistakes and a lot of money spent. And yet I get there in front of clients and I see their response and I see how easy it is to move them through the process. And I know that we have something really important from a consumer perspective as well as from a business model perspective. But I would say the darkest moment, the first few years, were hard, and we built and we learned and we were really moving. We had a partnership with Nordstrom on a concession basis, and we had doors and we were opening more doors. And then, of course, COVID came and the world shut down. And ultimately, we had to make the choice to back out of Nordstrom, not even for reasons of COVID, but because they made the choice to walk away from exotic skins. And some of our bags offer exotic skins. And that was a big part of our revenue at the stores there. So we had worked so hard to get this major revenue channel that had to basically just disappear. Um, and there was a moment where I was like, gosh, I just wonder if I should keep this going, because, I have a child. She was 5 then, and I had no idea what the future looked like. But my small team and I, in our little remote calls every day, really believed that we've built something that will have an impact and change an industry. And that's really what drives me, is impact and changing industries. So we continue to do what we do, and our clients were very supportive in buying the, pieces that we pulled back from our Nordstrom doors. Again, not many because we only have model stock, but nonetheless. And we moved to masks. And New York State gave us a $500,000 grant to start creating a mask that they could ultimately sell into their New York entities. And so that grant was helpful. Selling the mask was helpful. We continued to do other work along the way, but this really was a key driver during that period. We almost went to N95. We could have it tested very well, but the process was getting laborious. And of course, the pricing was being crushed by all the imports that came back in within a nanosecond. And so we, put a pause on that, but it carried us through. But now, since that time, we continue to run without a major retail partner. And it's something, the world is very different today. So we do retail, we do conferences, women's conferences, we do our favorite events are actually trunks and pop-ups with our clients, because there's nothing better than someone who's already had the experience and loves their piece. We work with specialty luxury boutiques and come in and out as a pop-up or a trunk. And so we're continuing to reinvent the business. And actually right now we're in a major period of reinvention, as we also think about the technology and how to make it even easier for our client to design a bag. But it's been an uphill climb. And it's not something that I was accustomed to in my life.
Well, and that I always joke that entrepreneur means, 3 weeks away from praying. know,
No, I'm praying
and
all the time.
yeah, I get it. I get it. How long does it take from inception to reception for your book
Yeah,
or
for
for
the
your
bag.
book, for your bag? Yeah.
So we will ship within 21 days. It's usually less, but we ship within 21 days. And um, our client, what we've learned is when they get that bag, when it shows up in front of them, it's this masterpiece that they've co-created. And I've heard many, many times from clients that we should do a campaign like when someone stops you in the street, who designed your bag? And you say, I did. Because that's what
Yeah.
clients experience all the time. We have 0 returns. We have a huge repurchase rate. The first sale is hard, convincing someone to buy a brand they haven't um, heard of that much, and then recognizing that it's a pretty significant cognitive load, and that's what we want to try to address with technology, especially if
Yeah.
you're not in a retail environment working with a stylist. We're asking you to make choices and have confidence in your own design point of view.
Yeah.
But once you've got that bag in your hand, the second sale is a lot easier for us. And so we know it's worth taking the time and the investment into that first order.
There is a trend called silent luxury.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a few people that I've been blessed to be able to sit across from and interview that are literally billionaires. And when they walk in, they don't have they don't have Louis Vuitton on everything. They don't have that because
Yeah.
that's not what they want to be. What I've found is there's a very big difference between true wealth and show wealth. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Exactly. And that you're nailing our client, because our client has bought those bags, but we call her beyond the brand. She has them in her closet,
Yeah.
but she's ready to take that next step. She recognizes quality, she knows beautiful workmanship, but she wants the bag that's uniquely hers. And so we pretty much are the 35 to 40 plus category for most of our offering. The bag you chose, the Messenger and Farm to Arm, is geared more towards the millennial, but even the millennial doesn't
I've
need the
been
brand
told
as
I'm
much.
immature, so
No, well, let me say it differently though. It was built for the millennial from a price point and a styling, but it turns out our current client has loved it as well. So we're happy that we've been able to straddle that. But it's exactly what you're saying. It's the client who says, okay, there was a moment when I need to show my Hermes or my Gucci or whatever for all sorts of proxies that brand
yeah.
serves in your life, but no longer. And so we're happy to be the ones that they fall into. We're not trying to replace any of those brands, but we're happy to have a place in the closet.
Yeah, I think there's room for everybody, but I do think we have to adopt a more conscious delivery and supply and materials. We have to get
Mm-hmm.
far more conscious. And you know what? The reality is, it's here in North America. We are the big drivers of this consumership, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we so that means we can be the big drivers in change. Right?
I
That's
agree with that. And it turns out to be the smaller, more nimble companies, like creating this new regenerative leather has been insanely difficult. But, we're the ones who are willing to put it all on the line because maybe we have less to lose than other larger brands, but we also are more nimble and flexible and innovative.
well, and I know that here, Calgary has at our Mount Royal University, they have a full division of study on agriculture, and
Hmm.
they actually are doing beef, and it's actually grown in the lab.
Oh, that's a
It's
different thing.
real
Yeah,
beef.
that's
So it's
but
yeah,
it's
no,
vegetable based, no?
No, it is an amino-based
Hmm.
product. It is
Amazing.
crazy what's happening.
That is
And
something.
this aligns with this is when we see that um uh what do they call that? Where you can have transferable technologies. So when you see a biotech that can transfer over to agriculture, what are the options and opportunities? So they're
Mm-hmm.
actually growing in dishes ground
Hmm.
chuck. It's crazy.
That's something. I'll have to look
So
that up.
yeah, it's our we have some crazy stuff going on in technology here. We have a whole thing where so for when you talk about sustainable cattle, right? And how it works within our ecosystem. They actually have this entire program that we see people from, University of Oklahoma coming up and studying. So
Hmm.
because we've had a large chunks of money being bequeathed to the universities in order to really research this and find out how we
Wow.
can be a more sustainable ag consumer, right? How can we do this so it's better for our planet? I do think that honestly, beef is an issue. I do like my beef, and being I have a type of a bleeding disorder that eating some sort because our body absorbs that iron easier. So but I also know that we're watching rainforests down in
Hmm.
disappearing because everybody wants the North American diet.
Yep.
So again, North America, we are a world leader. People watch. Everybody wants to be an American. So it's up to us to change what the new norms are. And
I think that's absolutely true.
so I'm getting you. I'm loving. Like I said, I
Thank
was so
you.
excited when I was reading everything. Going, this is a woman who understands business, is an entrepreneur, where we have 99% of, I think it was Salt Lake City, I just was researching, 99.2% of businesses registered were single entrepreneur or small business, and small
Hmm.
business is classified as under 50 employees. And I'm going, huh, this is a huge change from everybody working for a corporation.
Right.
So I love this, and I really appreciate you sharing all of
Thank
this.
you.
Let's talk books. I always like to know. I want to feed people, and I believe that stories are a sign of a truly wealthy mind,
Yep.
right?
Absolutely.
So I'm going to pull up this first one, and then tell us real quick. You said you had another one that came to you while we were talking.
Yes, but Duckworth, the grit.
Duckworth.
I'm just pulling it now without upsetting my phone. It's called, yeah, her name's Angela Duckworth, and the
Oh,
book is called Grit: The Power of Passion and
yes, yes,
Perseverance.
yes. She was that was a number one like 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
And she's done such huge amounts. She's a great in that space. So she's Angela Duckworth, yes. In Grit. And then Little Bets, tell me, what does a reader get from Little Bets? Or what
You
did you
know,
get?
yeah. So Peter Sims, it's as I think I said earlier, I was not born or raised with a growth mindset. I was very much, it was right or wrong. And I worked hard to be the perfectionist because, if I wasn't 100%, then I was a failure. It was at Harvard Business School that I really had to appreciate that there's a lot of right answers and there's a whole continuum. And often the magic happens in the gray area, not just this gray area, but the gray area. And it's now something I'm trying to teach my daughter. So what Peter Sims really talks about is how these people who appear to be overnight successes, really it was a series of little small breakthroughs, right? Nobody woke up and said, I'm going to be an amazing comedian, or I'm going to build an amazing social networking site. But it's a series of little small breakthroughs, little small experiments, little small things that they do that over time build into something really big. And that failure is a really big part of that. It's running a bunch of experiments, a bunch of tests. And I think it was the first time a book um, or anything really articulated what I was trying to go after in a way that it resonated with me. And I felt it was okay that I could let down my guard, not always be seeking perfection, which is a really difficult way to live every day.
Yep.
Not impose that on the people around me, the people that worked for me. Now, my daughter, I'm struggling with that with her now because she's a perfectionist. I'm like, how does this happen? Because I'm now the growth mindset, or school's the growth mindset. But if she doesn't get 100%, she kind of falls apart. So we're working on the growth mindset. And I've given it to my teammates, and I hired this production team, and I'll never forget the day when I shared some feedback in the nicest of ways with one of our master craftsmen, and he starts packing up his thimbles. And I'm like, what's going on? I was like, clearly I'm not good enough to work here. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. So let's talk about this. We're a learning environment. This is how we grow. We make mistakes so that we can figure out what we'll do differently next time. And it's the kind of thesis that I try to infuse both in the work environment as well as the home. And it was really his book that I think articulated in a way that I finally said, okay, I got it and I can embrace this.
Um, I love the term progress over perfection. And do you
Hmm.
know what the definition of perfection is? Have you ever looked up the actual Webster's Dictionary definition?
I'm afraid to hear.
Nowhere left to go. So
Oh,
the day I
really?
die, yeah, means that you are complete. And as far as I'm concerned, nothing in this world is complete until the day I hit the dirt. And that is the number one challenge for people launching their businesses
Hmm.
is they're waiting until they have it perfect.
Perfect. Yep.
And the world is moving too fast, folks. It is moving too fast. You will never have a complete product because your consumer, your audience, your client, your student is always evolving.
Yep.
Always evolving.
Absolutely.
So, working for progress, creating a space of reception, right? I will receive your feedback because I am growing with you and we can make this happen. So what
Hmm.
would you like to see different? And I think that's the biggest challenge is we have this fear of disappointment, this fear but not being good enough, this fear that somebody's going to take offense or be upset. And once we get past that fear and know that being a business owner is all about progress. Every day it's about progress. And it's I kind of visualize being a business owner like football and you
Well,
got the
you are.
ball. You know, you yeah. But you have that football, you're on the field and you're running. Everybody's coming at you. Yes, IRS, shipping, everything's blocked up, everything's coming at you, and you got to move. You got to keep going. And I think that's really important because if you stay in a singular linear vertical path, you will get plowed under. But if you know that you've got this passion, you've got this product, you've got this idea, you've got this leadership, and if you get to the end, you can serve. That allows you to have the agility in the movement. I love the
Absolutely.
fact that
That's a
you
great
bring
word.
that up because that is actually the number one thing that stops women from growing their businesses. And everybody says, oh, it's because the banks don't give money. It's because of this. No, 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 no. It's because you're waiting for it to be perfect.
Hmm.
Don't
It's
wait for
absolutely
it.
true.
Having a business is like birthing a baby. It is messy out there, folks. It's messy.
And every day is a new challenge, just like with a child.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All righty. Go through all your socials and where we can find you and engage with you.
Perfect. The website is one atelier, of course, number one, ATELIER.com. Um, our primary social media channel is our Instagram channel, which is One Atelier Luxury. You can find our brand also on LinkedIn, and then you can also find me, Stephanie Sarka, on LinkedIn.
Amazing. Stephanie, you are a rock star. I really
Thank you.
appreciate you sharing your time because I know as a mom of a 10-year-old and the mother of a very large company and growing company and constantly evolving company, you are busy. You are
Yeah.
busy. But thank you for
This is such fun for
sharing.
me.
Awesome.
A
Awesome. All right.
pleasure.
I always like to close the show out on a quote that inspires you and why, because we know that business can be hard, life can be tough. Nothing worthwhile is easy, but sometimes we forget that when we're in the hard spaces. And
Yep.
borrowing a quote may be the best way to get through somebody's day. So, what's your
Well, thank
quote and
you.
why?
I saw this, I borrowed this a while ago, and it's that choices are the hinges of destiny. And that may seem contradictory to what we've just said about being fluid and about mistakes and failure, but actually it's the opposite. It's about the need to constantly be making choices and not get static or stagnant, and also to pause and recognize the importance of those choices. I think sometimes we make choices, and I can look back, boy, at all sorts of choices I've made and sort of fly by them and not hit pause and give yourself the time to make it thoughtfully, and then rinse and repeat. So life's about constant choices, and hopefully making the best ones you can with the information you have.
Stephanie, you're a rock star. I'm going to be going on there, taking a look at that little one because that's literally what I'm looking for. And do you have pink? Can you do pink?
The messenger isn't little, but the little other one. Yes,
No,
we
the
do have a
little
pink,
one.
the mini convertible.
The
That's a
mini.
beauty. Yes, we have a buff, and we have a an orchid that's sort of a dark
Okay, orchid it
orchid
is.
magenta pink.
Yeah, you can tell, right?
Oh, I
Doesn't
can see
match
that.
my hair. Doesn't
It
match.
might actually.
Doesn't match my hair. And by the way, my car is the color of my hair, folks. I'm sorry.
Oh, I
It's
would
just,
love to
it's
see
all
this.
there. I'm all about, and I'm designing a new bot chat for my website, and it's going to be the Pinky Bot. So there you go, folks. Looking at life through rose tinted glasses, and everything seems to be pink in my world. So, Stephanie, again, I thank you, thank you, thank you.
It's a pleasure. I love speaking with you. Thank you so much, Kim.
I am honored. And folks, remember, give yourself grit, grace, a little space when you need it, because I promise you, you are worth every success. You are worth everything. So get out there, be good to yourself. Thank you for joining us here today at Kim Talks Resilience. I'm your host, Kim Hayden, and I'd love to invite you to our resilient community at resilientgift.com. That's resilientgift.com, and we'll send you our magazine and tickets for upcoming events and all sorts of cool things we do here. So be sure to keep watching, and you know what? Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share, because we all know that sharing is caring.